People, it's your boy Coach Mike here, coming back again with another great panel. Like I said before, I'm here with Miss Nadia Atkinson Maldonado, author, speaker, and founder of Free As F. All right, how you doing, Miss Nadia?
Awesome.
Great.
I feel great. How are you?
I'm good. Definitely a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you so much for taking out some time on this Saturday to educate the people a little bit on, as our topic today will be recharging to perform. Pretty much telling people about the reset into business performance, But yeah, so today I have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
First question, as a founder and author, what was the moment that you were like, I got to create Free As F?
Just my personal wellness journey. There was a point where, so I had reached my aggregate loan limits in 2017, and I wanted to be a psychiatrist, and I didn't realize the whole details of all the loans and all that kind of stuff on a personal level. And when I got the call that I couldn't finish the semester, I literally felt my whole world crashing, and I didn't know what to do. And then that was when I realized that all of my personal goals and accomplishments were all relying on societal requirements and goals and accomplishments. It was never anything that I could do for myself internally. So that was when I started my personal healing journey, and I created a vision board that was now surrounded by wellness and eating healthy and showing myself forms of intimacy outside of relationships and, just still some personal achievements. At that time, I wanted to become a real estate agent. I wanted to travel to Dubai. Just kind of want to start living to kind of be free outside of me going to school, because I had been going to school at that time for 9 years already. So I was like, okay, how do I become free outside of school? Because kind of like your story, right? You're in football, your schedule is filled up with so many different things, and mine was too at that point, right? You have papers, you have, just so many things. The commute time to get to school, at that time I was living off campus. So there were so many things that I really wanted to do that I didn't know how to do because I never had the time to do it. And now that I had all this free time because school was no longer a factor, how could I check in with self and actually activate that free mindset? So I started meditating. That was the first thing I did. I downloaded an app called Headspace, which is free now with most corporate. My company now gives us Headspace for free, which is crazy. So they are helping people, get a sound mind. And then at that time, Sean T was doing Insanity. So I started doing HIIT cardio, which was amazing. But he also used to incorporate yoga in there. And I had already been doing yoga at LA Fitness, but just to kind of incorporate both, with increasing your heart rate and then slowing it down. And I was like, oh, I really like this. So now that I'm doing meditation first, then I'm doing Insanity, and now I'm working. And I was like, I need to do something with my time. Let's jump into real estate, because entrepreneurship was always a part of my life from a very young age, at 6 years old. So I felt like that freedom with entrepreneurship and real estate would allow me to bring it all together. But the pivotal thing that I didn't expect was how much healing would come with just having the time to heal, right? Because as entrepreneurs, you're already so busy, you're completing so many tasks. At that time, I was a one-man band. I had so many responsibilities. With my business, I was strictly an author at that time, and I wanted to segue into real estate. And, I was like, what am I not doing to feel great about my accomplishments, right? Because you can consistently achieve goals as a business owner, but do you ever stop to bask in what you've accomplished, right? And I never did that. And at that time, I was already an entrepreneur for 4 years. So even learning how to do that and just loving the space that I am in, recognizing my shoe game is fire. I need to take some pictures of these shoes. I had never taken pictures of myself, or selfies wasn't really my jam. Just really falling in love with myself. So if I know that I needed that, I'm sure that there were other people who also needed that, right? So that was really what guided me to start Free As F, recognizing that societal norms are great, but if I was to transition, or, some people say die, if I was to transition, the world would still go on. right? All of this stuff would still be here. But did I complete whatever it is that I felt like I was supposed to come here to accomplish? What was my purpose? How can I achieve my purpose? Because we get stuck on that hamster wheel. And are we achieving purpose? I'm pretty sure God did not just want us to work the whole time, right? Like, you're tapping into the community. I asked you earlier, did you ever think that you would be here, right? Your purpose is obviously something that we are not even expecting. So I feel like I'm definitely walking in my purpose, and I love that I can help people heal childhood trauma. Just as a person, I'm literally using my personal blueprint to help other people.
Absolutely. No, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Taking those small wins and, using your entrepreneurship as, a freedom, and being in control of every aspect of your life, almost with entrepreneurship.
For
almost.
sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Okay. Now that comes us to the next question here. What would you think are the biggest signs that someone is kind of operating on empty, even when they seem productive on the outside?
For me, I remember there was a time when I was super irritable. Like, everything would annoy me. Like, this is when I'm like, all right, I need to go back in the house and recluse for a little bit because everything is annoying me. And that came with overworking, that one-man band, not really having the assistance, lack of support, just from family and friends, because in business you always think that your support system is going to be your family and friends, and it's always a stranger. Recognizing that, like I said, you feel disconnected from your purpose. You're not satisfied. You're doing, but you're not receiving that satisfaction within. I really think that's the juice of it, because if you're not really checking in with yourself, if you're not recognizing that overworking is not productive, lack of sleep, lack of having a higher power. Respectfully, I don't know how people are atheists, but if you don't have someone to put your weight on, like, how are you going to survive? Like, I will never understand that. So I feel like, if I am off or if I'm irritable, I always disconnect and make sure I check in with self. My prayer life is elite. Like, I have to keep God first in all things. It's a requirement. I move when God says to move. And, if I am irritable, if I'm growing irritable, I usually journal too.
Absolutely. And I even think, even as an entrepreneur, we gotta, most of our work, we live on faith. If you really want to be honest, sometimes,
So true.
because you're really taking that risk,
Yeah.
or you're gonna really lose that chance, almost, it's kind of hard to, go back and forth with yourself at times, but it's like sometimes you gotta be willing to take that risk, and then if you don't have that faith in God or that high power, that why, just to do, what you want to do,
Right.
then you won't really be successful in that. No, I definitely absolutely agree with that one. All right, next question here. How would you pretty much define, the connection between, rest, mindset, and long-term business performance?
I feel like rest is so important just because it allows you to have a sound mind, right? And even if, when we were doing one-on-one physical coaching, rest was so important for me there too, because you have to recharge your mind, recharge your body, because if you're just consistently going, you don't even realize that you're kind of running on E. And you kind of have to have that emotional clarity, especially operating a business, right? I don't want to make poor judgments or poor business decisions because I lack clarity, right? Some type of lethargic, temperament. And I always want to be 100%. I always want to show up 100%, when I am in business. I feel like when we're making business decisions, and if you're operating from an exhaustion or in an exhausted space, are you going to remember that you made those business decisions? Right? Like, you're just moving. Hey, I got this appointment at this time. I got to check my schedule. I'm going to be on this call. Like, you really are not tapped into self. And I feel like I can't emphasize that enough. Like, the importance of knowing yourself, knowing your body, knowing who you are. Like, you have to know when to stop. And a lot of people like are just working so much that we don't recognize that we have to stop and check in with self. Like that's like my favorite thing. I literally took 2 years off of just working for other people, and it didn't happen intentionally. Like my company just completely closed, but those 2 years just changed the whole game for me. I can't say that I'll ever give the amount of time and energy for anyone else's business like that ever again. You know what I mean? And there were many of days that I was, because my company was originated in Singapore, I'm operating in the United States working on 12-hour time difference, right? So now I'm sacrificing sleep. There were times when I would show up to you and I'm like, yo, I'm exhausted. I was sending emails at 3 a.m. and had to show up at 7. That's why I always did the 4:30 appointment. You know, like I knew I'm not going to be like 100% at 7 a.m. because that time difference, you know, literally I'm trying to catch 3-hour naps in between working and then still showing up for myself and my business and my social media following, because you know that is like an extended family. It's just a lot. Like you really have to tap into yourself, and you have to know your body, and you have to know when to stop and pause.
Gotcha. No, and then that kind of transitions to our next question here is like, you know, what are some of those daily habits that people, you know, really need, you know, to really protect their energy, you know, without really slowing down their momentum?
Right. For me, like as soon as I come into consciousness, like I immediately start praying. Like before my eyes are open, you know, I just thank God, you know, and that's usually like a 5 to 10 minute process. And then I'm hitting my yoga mat. Like I'm so serious about my yoga right now. I'm kind of going through the certification process of it. So it just requires more, you know, mat time, if you will. And meditation is really key for me. I love meditating out in the sun. You know, I have like a whole nerd energy about the sun right now. So I'm trying to get those like DNA downloads from our ancestors. Just taking time to check in with myself, moving my body. You know, you're supposed to replace your mattress like every 10 years or something like that. But if you didn't, for whatever reason, you start receiving aching pains in your body, and just stretching and, you know, kind of tapping in with myself. And I'm aging somehow, so, you know, just stretching my body is so important. Right now, I also work outside, so staying hydrated is like top tier, especially in the South where the humidity is at 1,000. And just recognizing like I have to move my body every single day. Like as I am aging on this planet, I recognize that if I don't, I kind of get stiff. It kind of affects my mood a little bit. Like I have to do something, whether it's walking or lifting or yoga. I have to do something. I have to check in with myself. So just recognizing, like I said, scheduling breaks. Like I took a 6-month social media break this year, which was so needed because I was on it every single day for 5 years. You know, just like growing my platform and getting new clients from there, what have you. So that was like amazing, you know, taking 6 months off and recognizing like, okay, this whole thing is still going. It didn't need me. I did walk away from like 150,000 like people viewing my page on a monthly basis. But just in the last week that I've been active, I'm back up to 20K. So it's like, did I really miss anything? You know, did they really miss me? I don't know, you know, but just knowing that you have to check in with yourself. And again, I can't emphasize that enough. If you don't know your own body, you're going to suffer. You know what I mean? Like time is moving so quickly. I'm sure that has something to do with it has to affect our bodies in a certain way. It is literally almost July, like next week. Yeah. You know what I mean? And if time is literally speeding up, if we are, for whatever reason, you know, I'm NASA, if for whatever reason we're moving faster throughout the solar system, that has an effect on our bodies. It's impossible for it to not, right? So you have to kind of keep up with those changes as well.
Absolutely. No, I agree. I mean, I even started adding like yoga, like aerial yoga in my daily routines. Yeah. People look at me crazy every time I kind of post it online of me hanging upside down, you know. They're like, man, you freaked out. I'm like, nah, bro, I'm trying to promise you this is it. This is the game changer, you know. And, you know, I'm able to train like an athlete. I'm still able to do all the heavy things that I did, you know, when I was in college, but that's because I'm taking care of my body, checking out myself, the meditation, the yoga, all plays a part. You know, you're definitely right with that.
I feel like athletes need yoga at least one day in their fitness routine because again, those aches and those pains, just those daily stretches, especially like hip flexors,
Yes.
just, you know, all of that stuff, it really does something to you. And you're slowing down.
Yeah.
We need to slow down.
Moving too fast. Moving way too fast.
And yoga really forces you to slow down. Like, there are times when I just want to do like a 15-minute session, and there are times I want to do it for an hour and a half, right? Sometimes you need both.
Right. No, absolutely. No, okay. No, that kind of gets us to our last question here.
Yes.
With overall just closing out, you know, recharging to perform. What does like recharging to perform look like in practice for busy entrepreneurs?
So I have like 5 points that I want to mention for this, but I think about our cell phones, right? We're consistently charging them. Sometimes we run out of charge, and if you're at 0%, 1%, that thing's going to shut off. It is not going to work, and neither am I. Right? At that time, we were probably DOA. So, you know, just the importance of knowing that you have to recharge, whatever that looks like for yourself. Initially, I came up with like 5 pillars of recovery, and because I'm not a brainiac today, I have to like recite this from my like handy dandy paper. So the first pillar is physical rest, which looks like sleep, hydration, nutrition, movement, and recovery days. You know, at least taking 1 hour per day. And if you can't do it per day, if your schedule really is impossible, just 1 hour a week. Like, do you stop? What does that look like? Taking a nap, you know, or just going somewhere for a walk. Like, at least do that once per day or an hour per week. You know, a lot of Christians often talk about the Sabbath, the seventh day being the Sabbath day, right? Observing the Sabbath. For me, I used to observe the Sabbath on Mondays. Monday's like my chill day. I sleep in, I'll clean the house, like I'll get into like a flow, maybe meal prep or cook, whatever that may look like. You know, on one of those days, I'm not leaving my bed if I don't want to leave it, right? Just having that rest day to kind of tap in with yourself, because sometimes you really do need it. The second pillar is mental rest. And, you know, we are just living on our cell. Like, I hate seeing people on their cell phones all day long now. For some reason, it just like irks my soul. And it's like, if we're at the gym or getting some type of PT in, right? As soon as we leave, the first thing we do is go on our phones, and we're back on it like it never left. We're not even basking in that working out energy, right? We just released all this stuff from our bodies and kind of got our mind right, and then we're immediately picking up the toxicity again, right? Just even having that 20 to 30 minute space before, you know, tapping back into your phone could go such a long way. So I feel like that mental rest is so important. Emotional recovery, sometimes that can look like resentment, disappointment, people pleasing, past failures. For me, it looks like inner child healing, you know, tapping in with self, recognizing that I had so many childhood wounds just from like incidents that I had been through before I was 5 years old, molestation, you know, being in shootouts, like all this stuff before 5 years old. I'm like, bro, how did I suppress this? When did all of this just flood, you know, back to my memory? And that's why I like love the human mind so much, because one thing can trigger a ton of suppressed, you know, emotions, and you have to intentionally heal that. I feel like you cannot show up in places or spaces if you haven't healed properly. I feel like even as an entrepreneur, right, we're talking to new people, we're networking, you don't know what someone's face could immediately trigger a response in you. Like, it could be the smallest things, and that's just how our brains work, right? That's how they're wired and coded. Pixar's Inside Out, I think it's called. That movie is about human emotions and relating, you know, and teaching children about emotions, but it's really for adults, low key. Like, that movie is so impactful. It's something that I watch annually just to recognize, like, all of these emotions could easily come back at any moment. Spiritual recovery, you know, reconnecting with who you are beyond performance. How well do you know yourself? Like what I've been mentioning, like, do you know your body? How can you tap in with yourself? Spiritual, just tapping in with source, isolate source God energy, recognizing that your prayer life has to be elite, especially as a business owner. I feel like if you don't have someone to put your weight on, you're not going to succeed. I can't always put it on my partner. I can't always put it on my mentors or coaches. Like, you have to have a spiritual source outside of you to develop yourself as an entrepreneur, right? They always say, like, ask God for what you want and you shall receive it, right? But I could be in the middle of a Job season, right? I could be going through the worst of the worst, and then all of a sudden God is like, here go your blessings, right? But if I didn't keep my faith, if I wasn't spiritually centered, how would I be able to receive those blessings? And just recovery through nutrition. Food is information to your body. So how are you really eating? Just as an entrepreneur, as an athlete, doesn't matter. Like, food sends information to your body. Different parts or different foods that you eat can help your hair grow, your nails grow, your skin glow. Like, all of that stuff is really important for me right now, because I am working outside and then I am super busy and I'm not home for a great portion of my day. I keep eggs, fish, which is codfish mostly, chicken breast, and arugula in my house at all times. Because if I don't feel like cooking, that is one of the fastest things I can do, right? I can either boil an egg or cook some codfish real quick and put it in my salad with some oil and I use garlic powder, and that's a whole meal right there. Like, I'm cool with that. Like, it's basic, it's simple, it takes 10 minutes or less, and now we in there. If you're doing chicken, it's 17 minutes. I hope y'all not even raw chicken, but still, you know what I mean? Like, it's still quick, but tapping in with myself, and again, knowing my body. I heard you mention about fruit. That's the fastest way to hydrate your body, the fastest, right? I'm outside. I never drank Gatorade from teenage, and now I drink 2 bottles a day because I need those electrolytes. Sometimes water just doesn't hydrate you as good as, you replenishing yourself with those electrolytes. Fruit always will hydrate you the best. So, especially because the earth is just naturally getting hotter, it's really important for us to know what can hydrate you and what can actually fill you up, right? If you're on a fruit and nut, I used to do fruit and nut cleanses. Those are 2 things that can hydrate you and fill you up without eating a physical meal, right? Just know what your body needs. Right now, I'm still eating for my blood type. So recognizing, like, my body performs better with certain foods. These foods give me, irritability, and, what can I do and what should I avoid? So again, just knowing your body, knowing how to tap in with yourself, knowing the importance of fuel, and succeeding as an entrepreneur, because you have to show up every single day. Some nights are going to be sleepless. Some nights are going to be easy. Some nights are going to require you where your website crashed. Now you got to figure out how to make it run again, right? You have to always be at your peak energy. And the best way to do that is by having all of these 5 pillars active.
I ain't gonna lie to you. You post those 5 pillars anywhere, you'll succeed in anything. I mean, we gotta put, honestly, those 5 pillars in some recreation centers. We gotta put them in some corporate organizations. I ain't gonna lie to you. I mean, just based off all those 5 things, I mean, you kind of go back to, like, the overall wellness. That's complete wellness right there.
Yeah.
And then you tap in, really, that will be like the body work, and then everything else around it just be smooth sailing from there.
I agree. It's definitely pivotal for sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a sign for you.
No, I need that. No, I ain't gonna lie to you. I mean, but we need that. I mean, for
I got you.
But yeah, those are all great things on the 5 pillars of recharging to perform. I ain't gonna lie to you. That's how you do it. But Miss Nadia, that's kind of all we had for today. If you want to know how to recharge to perform at the end of the day, tap in with Miss Nadia, and then now she just pretty much gave you, the 5 pillars and what you would need to succeed as an entrepreneur. But that's all we had today for Recharging to Perform. Thank y'all for joining us, and stay tuned for more.
Yay!